Big question for a lot of parents out there. Say, how old should my son or daughter be when I want to get them a checking account or a savings account? So join us today to give you some ideas and guidelines. Our good friend, Mr. Tony. How are you, my friend? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me back.
So let's talk about what you suggest. I mean, again, I think every kid's obviously different and parents are going to know what's best. But what are some guidelines you have about when you start looking for savings and checking accounts?
Well, I think a lot of times I'll have a lot of new parents come in with a newborn baby and they'll set up a savings account for the child. Just if they get checks or if they get something and they want to start a savings fund for that child. See quite a bit of that. Obviously, anytime they're under 18, you do need a parent on there. So the parents will come in and set them up, but they'll put the child as the primary and they'll be the joint. So it is under the child's name. And then as they get a little bit older, maybe 3 or 4, you see that same little child come in and they'll make their $5 deposit and
Nice.
they'll kind of get in the stage of, okay, you know, I'm going to the bank, I'm going to save some money, and you kind of teach them from there going forward.
So that's the savings. And then when do you finally go, okay, maybe we should get a checking and start to widen things out a little bit?
That you can actually add on a checking account to that original savings account if you're a member of a credit union, or usually you can just tack one on. Depending on your parenting style, I've seen 10-year-olds get them. I think 13 or 14 is good, maybe even 12 seems to be the best. Now, when you get the child the debit card, there's some things you can do to protect mom and dad too, so they don't go out and buy a Porsche or something. A lot of times you can put daily limits on those debit cards, which I would recommend, of maybe $100. So if they go to the mall or something, they don't come back with a PS4 or something. So you can set limits on those debit cards for use, which I would recommend as they get going.
So do you guys have an app so you can sit there with your son or daughter and kind of go over, hey, here's how much is in there, what are you thinking about getting, that kind of thing? Or
Absolutely, yep. Most places, whether it be a credit union or bank, they're going to have their online banking. But nowadays, anybody under 25 is just all about the mobile app typically. So what's great is that the parents can log on to that, the child can log on, so you can track the spending of the child and see if there's maybe so many charges that probably shouldn't be there. Maybe they're doing something they shouldn't with the card. So they can both track that together. And so, the 13, 14-year-olds, mom and dad are going to have same access to that, so they don't want to do anything they shouldn't be doing with that debit card.
what are some of the biggest suggestions you have for parents as they're starting to teach their kid about finances?
I think that's a great one, is to get that savings account, get them young, get them making the deposits. And I really do like them having that checking account at 13 or 14 so that they're responsible. They're getting to understand how those things work. And kids today with online mobile app are light years ahead, where they can understand that by the time they're on their own at 18 or 19, it's old hat for them.
You hear a lot of advertising about free checking and this and that. If we go to your place, do you guys have a free checking, free savings account? Is there a minimum you need to have in there? Or?
We don't have any minimums. We actually have a Pee-wee account for younger kids too. And if you go online, we have a section for parents where they can go. There's some educational things and kind of a timeline too of what we're talking about, of kind of the ages, recommended ages for the child as they get older to do that. But a lot of banks and a lot of places do have some great, we call them Pee-wee accounts, youth checking accounts. And then also when they're about 14 or 15 too, a lot of times the parents will co-sign for a loan, even if it's $1,000, just to get them used to making a car loan. And what that's doing too is building the credit. Sometimes they'll get a joint credit card too at that age, because it takes 6 months to get a credit score. So by the time they're 18, they have 3 or 4 years of credit history, and then they can start doing things on their own.
So we come in, we see you and go, hey, we want to open up a Pee-wee account, and we can start making some deposits and go from there?
Exactly.
All right, anything else you want to add?
No, I just think that it's great to get them started out young, get that responsibility, get used to using a debit card and tracking it and so forth. And I think when you see that in younger kids, a lot of times that follows through to adulthood.
If you don't mind, remind people where y'all are located at.
I'm at Town and Country Credit Union. You can go to townandcountry.org, and we have some wonderful, we have called the Bonsai program for the youth and young teens, where they have some educational materials for parents and kids. And I would encourage you to check that out.
The Bonsai program.
The Bonsai program.
All right, maybe when we have you back, you can chat about that.
We can definitely do that.
The Bonsai program. Check out our man Tony here at Town and Country and get the Pee-wee account open up for your younger ones, and stick around. We got a lot more coming up right after this.